Good evening, everybody. This is Study Guide with Joe, and today we're talking about the first part of being in God's presence, how to be in God's presence. And today we're going to talk about understanding God's desires. Let's jump into the Word. Genesis chapter 1, verse 11. God says this: Then He commanded, "Let the earth produce all kinds of plants, those that bear grains and those that bear fruit." And it was done. So God said, let's create a farm and let it plant food, plants, vegetables, everything, because that was God's desires. And then in verse 26, God says this. Then God says, "And now we will make human beings. They will be like us in remembering us. They will have power over the fish, the bird, and all animals, the manic and wild, large and small." So God says, first we're going to create a farm with fruit, vegetables, food, everything. And then we're going to create a human being, meaning Adam. We're going to create Adam and let him become a farmer on the farm. And let him, because that way, if he desires me, I could desire him. If we could be together in one flesh. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 20, it says like this. So the man named all the birds and all the animals, but not one of them was a substitute companion to help him. See, God thinks that an animal can help a human being, but God deciding if a man is on earth and I created him, that I could do something else for him, by me, to get a helping mate. Paul says it, and I love how Paul says it in the book of Ephesians. Book of Ephesians, chapter 2, and in verse 1. And Paul talks about how God created heaven and earth back in Genesis. But this way he talked to his apostles to understand how God desired us without him knowing that we want him to be with us. This is what Paul says in chapter 2, verse 1 in the book of Ephesians. It says, "In the past you were spiritually dead because of your disobedience and sin." Remember the 10 Commandments. Shall not. So each person broke every commandment. So God says, remember back in Genesis, if you read Genesis 3, how the serpent convinced Eve, eat from the fruit tree, and said you could be like God. But they came to find out the serpent lied to her with sin, and now the earth was filled with sin. So God had to do things that he don't like to do. In Genesis and book of John, chapter 10, and in verse 16, this is what John says. He says, "There are other shepherds which belong to me that are not in this sheep pen. I must bring them too. They will listen to my voice, and they will become one flock with one shepherd." So John said when Jesus spoke, everybody came together as one. Everybody came together as one. Everybody did things as one, because he was leading and teaching and preaching and showing people how to do things in an old-fashioned way, to understand things and do things as was told. Sometimes we do things out of spite without thinking. We speak without thinking. That's why last night today Paul says we have to watch what we say and watch what we do, because this is how, if God says one thing, we have to listen. Sometimes we have to sit back and listen, because if we don't stand back and listen, we never get nowhere. And look at Exodus chapter 6 and verse 7. And this is what Moses says: "I will make you my own people, and I will be your God. You will know that I am the Lord your God when I set you free from slavery in Egypt." That's powerful. That is so powerful. God says, "I sent Moses to rescue you guys." Okay, he said, "I want you to understand my desire for you. If you desire me, I can desire you. And let me be your God. Let me lead you to the way that it needs to be done. And once you do that, I can understand why he does this. And he said, I will give you land. You're going to be free. You're going to have land. Land and beyond land. And you're going to do things that nobody could do. And nobody going to take away from you because I gave it to you. And look at in Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 12, how God told Moses, I will be with you, I will be your God, and you will be my people. Once again, God's desire is for us to be with him, for he could be with us. That's his desires. In Jeremiah is no different, because Jeremiah is a poet. Jeremiah chapter 7. Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 23, he says like this. Jeremiah chapter verse 23, he talks about it, and he says like this, but I did command them to obey me so that I could be their God and they could be my people. And I told them to live the way I had commanded them so that things could go well for them. So Jeremiah wrote this. He says, God told me to tell you, if you let him into your life, and you do what he tells you to do, everything's gonna be blessed. Everything's gonna come to you in one shot. And things that happens, things will go forward. And everything you need to do is we have to do things the way that God commanded it. Look at verse 11. Go back to verse 11, chapter 7. Jeremiah. This way he says, do you think that my temple is a hidden place for robbers? I have seen what you are doing. So God's telling them, I know what you're doing, and you guys is doing a lousy job of doing it because you don't know when to quit it. Remember the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 10, he says, you let a thief, when a thief enter your house, he wants to rob you blind. When God gives you, he comes in, he takes everything what he wants because you let him get away with it. And look at Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 24. He says like this. Jeremiah chapter 24. He says like this. I look at the mountains, and they were shaking, and the hills were rocking back and forth. See, remember back in the book of Matthew, when Jesus was on a rock and on the mountain, he says, this will be my church. And everybody's going to follow me and listen when I'm teaching and preaching and do things the way it needs to be done and settled. Sometimes we have to take that. We have really have to take it. Because why? Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? We have to let God lead us, not us leading God. Because what's going to happen is we're going to fall into our own temptation without God's help. In Jeremiah chapter 7 verse 30, it goes like this. The people of Judea have done an evil thing, that have placed their idols, which I hate, in my temple, and I have defiled it. God destroyed the idols. Because you can't worship any idol. You have to worship God. Remember in Genesis, God created heaven and earth. He created farm, food, everything. He created man and woman. And then what happened? What Paul says, you broke that commandment because you didn't do what God told you to do. And Jeremiah said, you have to listen to him. You have to obey him. You have to follow him. And this is the things that he gets. Look at Jeremiah chapter 22. Jeremiah chapter 22. And verse 29 to 30. Well, 28 through 30. It says, I said, has the king of Jericho become like a broken drawer, that it is thrown away, and that no one wants it? Is that why he had his children have been taken into exile to the land that they know nothing about? O Lord, the land, listen to what the Lord has said. This man is condemned to lose his children, to be a man who will never succeed. He have no descendant who will rule in Judea, as David says, I, the Lord, have spoken. So this is the stuff that God is talking about. This is the stuff that Jeremiah is talking about. Jeremiah said God says what he needs to do. And remember the book of Job, when Job was a rich man and when his kids disobeyed. What happened with David? God took away David's kids because, why? Because they didn't do, he was deciding for a woman that was never his wife. Sometimes we have to decide our wives before we decide anything. Okay, when God created heaven and earth, when he created Adam and Eve, the first thing he did, he put a serpent on earth and see what happened. Remember 2 weeks ago I said when God used us as an instrument, not looking for wants to control us, using the same thing as God doing. And we're going to go to Ezekiel. This is part 1, and next I come back with part 2. Ezekiel chapter 11 verse 20. It says this: Then they will keep my law and faithfully obey all my commandments. They will be my people, and I will be their God. Again, God kept on saying. God kept on saying, if you desire him, he will desire us. We have to desire each other with no buts, no ifs, no nothing. Because he will love us no matter what. Ezekiel chapter 14, verse 11. Ezekiel keeps on saying, Ezekiel says this: I will do this to keep the Israelites from destroying me and defiling themselves by their sin. They are to obey, to be my people, and I will be their God. The savage Lord has spoken. Once again, God kept on saying, I will be your, he said, I will be your God. And you know what, it gets me, this is so amazing how God say things and people don't listen. Sometimes we have to take a step back and listen to what God is saying. God is saying he desires us as we desire him. And then chapter 36 and verse 28. Again, this is what Ezekiel says. Then you will live in the land I give you. Your ancestors, you will be my people, and I will be your God. Perfect again. This is the stuff that God is talking about. He is telling you, he's deciding, he wants us to be with him as he wants us to be with him. He wants to be with us. We have to desire him. We have to obey him. In order to do this, we have to pick up the Bible, read the scriptures, and say, he wants to be our God. And then I'm going to leave you on with this. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 23 through 27. It says like this: They will not defile themselves with disgust idols anymore, or corruption themselves with sin. I will free them from all ways in which they sin and betray me. I will purify them. They will be my people, and I will be their God. A king like myself and David will be their king. They will all be united under one ruler, and they will obey my law faithfully. They will live on the land I give to them, my servant Jacob, and the land where their ancestors lived. They will live there forever, and so will their children and all their descendants. A king like my servant David will rule them forever. I will make a covenant with them that generation guarantees their success, security forever. I will accomplish them and increase their population, and will see to it that my temple stand forever in their land. I will live there with them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. Okay, once again, God said it again. He says we will be there together. We'll be there and in understanding. because he said he will be our king. God is our king. He will be with us. He wants us to be there for each other. He wants us to understand that he wants to be our God and we could be his people. And that's what he wants. That's what he desires. And that's what we need to do. And that's what we have to obey. Because that's how we accomplish things in life, through God, through Christ. And that's what he does. Hosea chapter 2 verse 23. He says, I will accomplish my people in the land and make them preparers. Again, God says again, this is the way we need to do things that needs to be dealt with. And in the way we need it is the way he prepared this. It's because it's how he wants us to do. He wants us to understand that he wants us to love him, to respect him, to obey him, to follow him. He wants us to do all this for him because he is our people. He is our king. He said so many times, he says, we will be his people and he will be our God. He said it with a passion because David was a good servant, but then he broke his commandment, his trust with God. Like Adam and Eve, they broke their spiritual spirit with God because Eve listened to the sin. And that's why we need to understand, like Job, he begins to appreciate what God have given them, how to live in the land. In Zechariah chapter 8 verse 8, he says this, and will bring them back from east and west to live in Jerusalem. They will be my people, and I will be their God, ruling over them faithfully and justly. See, God says, if we become his people, he becomes our God. He will trust us.